So we've dried them. Now if we dry our rosemary, we can just put that in hot water, as in boiling water from a kettle, and that will make a cup of tea, an infusion, which is fine. If we save something like dandelion root, dandelion root is really good for issues to do with the liver, but if you've dried a dandelion root, it's like biting a piece of wood. You don't want to go too close to it. So you would take that piece of dandelion root, you put it in a saucepan, you bring it to boil, and simmer for 20 minutes. You just made a decoction. Sounds Protestant, sounds knowledgeable, confident, like that word. But that's what you make. And then you drink that like you drink your tea. You don't have to drink it all at once, you can drink so much a day from that pot, and then repeat the process. Roasted dandelion root is really rather nice, if you ever get the chance to have it. It's like a kind of coffee, but nicer. And you don't get the high that you get with coffee and the low that you get after coffee. Does anybody here drink coffee?
Yes.
You do? How many people drink coffee? Yeah, that's it. Good. Okay. Anybody used to drink it but don't drink it anymore? Okay. I used to be a 7 mugs a day, and I had to cut down, and I couldn't cut down because I was told to go and try and drink some herbal tea. And I tried a herbal tea, and it tasted awful. It tasted like not much. At all. It had no taste to it to me because my palate was overwhelmed by the coffee. So the coffee is a very, very strong legal drug. That's how I look at it. It's legal. It's very strong. Now I've had line managers that have been manipulated by people from personnel. I've seen them go into the line manager with a mug of coffee in the hand and a Kit Kat in the other hand, and they sit down and say, "Alan, have a cup of coffee." And the gentleman would have a cup of coffee and his Kit Kat, and the personnel person would get more or less what they wanted out of it. Now, if you'd gone back to maybe an hour later, he would have come down and finished fine. And that's when he would come out of his office and into our office, and you never know what he's going to shout next. Okay, but I observed this. So observing how people behave and why they react. So the personnel manager was smart. We weren't quite so smart. We should have left the office just after the coffee had been served. Okay. Be aware if you are a coffee drinker, try and keep it to the minimum amount that you can, because it will have an effect on you at many, many levels. You're all different, so I can't say it'll definitely affect your heart, and I don't want to give you scaremongering, but it is very strong. And you can, if you ever try giving it up and you can't, then you realise you become addicted to it as well. Okay? I do drink it now, and the only time I drink it is if I've got a long journey to do. Driving back from London to Cornwall, I'd take it then, and I'd be loving. It would have the strongest one I could have. So I use it to my advantage. Okay. So also powders. You can have powders. Now one of the things, powders are great to take because you can just put them in water and make a lovely word called a gruel. When you mix the powder and the water and mix it into a paste, they call it a gruel. And that's good. One of the things with a powder is that as soon as you make it into a powder, if you've ever powdered anything in the kitchen at all, one, it can go everywhere if you're doing it with an electric machine, and you get this great aroma of smell, whether it be cinnamon or whatever it is you're doing. Bear in mind, as soon as you powder it, you're dissipating the energy within that herb, because it's losing it. One of the greatest ways to store your herbs is to have them whole and dry, like a whole dry bay leaf, which you can powder afterwards if you want, or if you want to have a cinnamon stick rather than the powder. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Certainly things like cayenne powder, after a while they go off to a funny orangey colour rather than that bright red. So preserve it whole and then use it when you need it. As long as you keep them cool and dry, then they'll last for quite some time. Vinegar tinctures will last for a couple of years. Alcohol tinctures can last 100 years. Okay, just give a little score. 10 being really good, 0 being really poor, in the morning wake up, will I sleep well? Yeah. 8, 9, whatever. No. 0, 3, whatever. And just keep a little diary, and then you can monitor yourself. You're taking responsibility, and it's a great feeling that I can do that to get the result I want to get. If anybody here goes to sleep thinking the things on their mind, I know none of you are worriers, are you? One of the things I strongly recommend you do is just focus on your breathing, because the mind can't cope with being in the now, in the moment. The mind will take you to the past, it will take you to the future. You never worry about your breathing in the moment. And the secret to longevity, keep breathing. So that's a little tip, and I found that for a number of people that's actually solved their problem. They didn't need a herb. Focus on the breathing, and maybe make your breathing a little bit stronger than you normally would, so you're really focusing on it. And each time that little thought comes in, push it to one side, come back to breathing. Okay. It's free consultation. Okay, so we've got that. So, conclude. Apart from this, my life also consists, as Teresa was mentioning, of the herb garden, which exists. It's gone from an idea when I woke up early one morning, that's what I need to be doing. It's gone from an idea to finding a right location, to buying the location, to getting my planning permission, to putting my entrance in, my car park, my first 2 barns, my electric, my telephone, my broadband. You are nothing without broadband, are you? My polytunnel, which I say to people, this is my bio. You are nothing without a bio these days, are you? So, and I've got my first phase fenced off, ready to do my first planting next year. So I'm excited. So I shall be growing herbs, and there'll be 2 more barns to go up, and one of them will be for processing into tinctures and oils and sports oil, BP. Plenty of that to make. And there'll be another barn for you to come in, and you'll be able to try a tincture, taste it, buy it. Hopefully you'll be able to have a Morocco mint smoothie. This will make you a Morocco, whatever you want to have. It might be blueberries. There'll be blueberries on site at some stage. That will be able to grow, and I want children from the schools to come down and actually see and touch and taste and feel and experience. A few years ago I was listening to Radio 4. They were asking some children, where do carrots come from? Supermarkets. I thought, if they're thinking that about carrots, they've got a chance with me, haven't they? So, first stages are the local school, Falmouth School of Enterprise and Business, have just done me a website. Now, the chap was brilliant on the computer, he's only 17. It's taken a while, he was 12 when we started. He's only 17, he's never done a website before, so it was a little bit like the blind man in the darkened room looking for the black cat that wasn't there. But we've got there. It needs a little bit of tweaking to make it how I'd like it, but I'm delighted. And on that website, which is www.cornish-herbs.com, and there's information up here which you can take away that one. You can see what we're about and where we are. And also, it will be talking on there about some of the workshops that I'm doing. So I've got workshops in the autumn, including some of what you've had tonight. Also about there's one in November about making the tinctures, have a go. We'll do decoctions, we'll do infusions and teas, talk on a broader scale than now, to get you to actually do it, which I'm quite keen on. And also one at the end of November, as a result of my first series of workshops, there's a lady came up to me and said, because I used dowsing or the pendulum to get certain information, the lady said, no, I just read a pendulum every time. So they wanted a dowsing workshop. So at the end of November I'll be doing dowsing, and which will cover pendulums and rods, and I'll share with you how to detect water, which is the key one that we use, but also how to work through lists of things,